From the very first moment Shag appeared on Iron Resurrection, fans could tell he wasn't your average shop guy. While the rest of the crew was elbows deep in metal, paint, and horsepower, there stood a fast-talking Texan in a button-down shirt and cowboy boots, flashing that signature grin. Shag wasn't holding a wrench, he was holding the deal. And he had one job: find the cars that no one else could, negotiate the price, and make sure the team always had fresh projects rolling in. His voice, his vibe, and his hustle made him instantly recognizable. He wasn't just the comic relief, he was the ignition switch that kept the whole show moving. But who is Jason Shag Arrington, really? Behind the jokes and charm is a man who's spent decades mastering the art of the hustle. Long before the TV cameras showed up, Shag was grinding in the Texas car scene, organizing events, flipping rides, connecting people, and building a reputation as someone who could close a deal without ever raising his voice. His gift wasn't in fabrication, it was in relationships. He could spot a rusted-out barn find, convince the owner to part with it, and instantly see its potential as a TV-worthy transformation. It wasn't about the metal, it was about the story. This first chapter digs into what makes Shag tick, because while the builds are the star of the show, they don't happen without him. Every episode starts with a conversation, a handshake, or a perfectly timed joke that disarms the seller and lands the deal. He brings energy, humor, and street smarts to a show built on sweat and steel. And without ever lifting a wrench, he's become one of the most essential parts of Iron Resurrection. He's the guy who sets the stage, the one who starts every resurrection with a deal. Before he ever went by Shag on television, Jason Arrington was already carving out a name for himself in the Texas car and event scene. Born and raised in the Lone Star State, Jason wasn't some reality TV fluke. He was a man on the move long before the cameras rolled, building connections, promoting car shows, organizing community events, and living at the intersection of hustle and horsepower. His love for classic cars came naturally. Texas is muscle car country, and Jason immersed himself in that culture from a young age. But unlike others, he didn't fall into the role of a builder or mechanic. His strength was in communication, personality, and closing deals others couldn't. In the years before Iron Resurrection, Shag worked behind the scenes in media, promotion, and entertainment. He understood marketing, he understood people, and more than anything, he understood the power of relationships. That's what made him such a natural when he was eventually introduced to Joe Martin. Their chemistry didn't come from a casting call, it came from years of friendship. Long before they were co-stars, Shag and Joe were tight. The kind of friends who could talk cars for hours and bust each other's chops without a second thought. When Joe got the call from Velocity to start a new automotive series, there wasn't even a question of who he wanted by his side. Shag didn't audition for the show, he was invited. Because Joe knew, when it came to making deals, navigating personalities, and bringing good energy into the shop, there was no one better. This part of Shag's story isn't about fame. It's about being exactly who he was long before the rest of the world noticed. Authentic, driven, and built for the hustle. When Iron Resurrection got the green light from Velocity, it wasn't just a chance for Joe Martin to show off his shop. It was an opportunity to build something special. Joe had the tools, the talent, and the vision. But he needed a balance. Someone who could be the front man to his fabricator, someone who could take the pressure off the crew, bring in killer projects, and make the audience laugh without forcing it. That's where Shag came in. Joe didn't need a co-star, he needed Shag. Their years of friendship created a natural chemistry that no producer could fake. They trusted each other. And most importantly, they knew how to stay in their lanes. From the first episode, Shag added an element to the show that no one expected. He wasn't just a host. He was the negotiator, the scout, the guy out in the Texas heat digging through barns and garages to find the next forgotten treasure. He wasn't afraid to walk away from a bad deal or lean into an awkward silence to drop the price. With his laid-back humor and streetwise charm, he made Iron Resurrection feel less like a TV show and more like a hangout between friends who just happened to be building jaw-dropping cars. But what many viewers didn't see was how much work went into each lead. Shag wasn't just showing up and reading a script. He was doing the research, chasing leads, making calls, and earning trust in rural communities where people don't just hand over their rusted-out dream cars. He was doing the real work behind the scenes. And when he finally brought a car to Joe, it wasn't just a shell, it was a story. And stories are what make great TV. If there's one skill Shag has mastered above all others, it's seeing past the surface. Where others see a rusted-out hulk, he sees history. Where others see a pile of scrap, he sees opportunity. That's what makes him so good at what he does. He's not just hunting for metal, he's hunting for emotion. A car that's been sitting under a tarp for 20 years isn't just a build. It's a chapter of someone's life. And Shag knows exactly how to find the story buried beneath the dust and weeds. Every episode begins with Shag hitting the road, bouncing down dirt paths, knocking on garage doors, or wandering through junkyards. He's not afraid to get dirty, but what sets him apart is the way he talks to people. He doesn't hard sell. He doesn't pressure. He listens. He jokes. He connects. He finds out why the car ended up in that field, what it meant to the owner's grandfather, or why the family never got around to restoring it. Then, slowly and respectfully, he guides the conversation toward a deal. Shag's talent isn't just negotiation, it's emotional intelligence. He knows that every seller needs something different: reassurance, validation, or just someone to hear their story. That's why people sell to him, because they trust that the car is going to someone who gets it. And when he brings that story back to the shop, it gives Joe and the crew something more than a project. It gives them purpose. That's why the show resonates. Because it's not about flipping metal. It's about redemption. And Shag is the guy who finds the cars worth saving. If Joe Martin is the hands of Iron Resurrection, then Shag is its voice. Every great car show needs someone who can do more than restore, someone who can negotiate. Shag isn't just a deal maker, he's a strategist. When he shows up to a seller's property, he's not winging it. He's already run the VIN, researched the car's history, checked market comps, and thought 5 steps ahead. But here's the magic. You'd never know it, because Shag makes it look easy. He smiles, he laughs. He lets awkward silence hang just long enough to shave thousands off a price. It's not just buying, it's performance. He's a master of reading people. If a seller is emotionally attached, Shag doesn't lowball. He softens the pitch. If someone's on the fence, he pulls out a story about a similar car they built on the show, or drops Joe's name to build credibility. His approach isn't about manipulation, it's about connection. Shag doesn't just want the car, he wants the person to want him to have it. That's why viewers trust him, and why sellers keep coming back. The best part? He does it all with humor. Shag disarms people with charm, wit, and good old Texas confidence. He'll poke fun at a car's condition while praising its potential. He'll joke about tetanus shots, but still honor the history in every bolt. Sellers laugh, they relax, and before they know it, they're shaking hands on a deal they weren't sure they'd ever make. Off camera, crew members say Shag is just as sharp. He handles real paperwork, negotiates contracts, and often scouts builds months in advance. He's not just winging it for TV. He's closing real deals that drive the show forward. And if a deal dies, he brushes it off and moves on to the next one. Because that's the game. That's the hustle. And nobody hustles like Shag. On screen, Shag is the comic relief. The guy cracking jokes while Joe welds and Amanda manages logistics. But behind the scenes, his role runs far deeper. Shag is the emotional glue holding the Iron Resurrection team together. In a garage full of tight deadlines, high-stakes builds, and intense personalities, Shag's ability to keep the mood light isn't just entertaining. It's essential. Every crew has tension, tempers flare, projects fall behind, equipment breaks. Shag senses these moments before they spiral and steps in like a pressure release valve. He'll crack a joke, distract with a story, or offer a clever metaphor that gets everyone laughing, even when the clock's ticking. It's not just personality, it's leadership. He may not be calling the shots on the shop floor, but he's managing the energy in the room, and that matters just as much. What most fans don't realize is that Shag often plays middleman between the garage and the outside world. He manages expectations with clients so Joe and the crew can stay focused. He coordinates with production, keeping the show flowing without burning out the team. And when a client shows up on delivery day nervous or skeptical, it's Shag who eases the tension and reminds them why they came to Martin Brothers Customs in the first place. Shag's role isn't about ego, it's about making space for others to shine. He doesn't need to be the loudest, smartest, or most skilled in the shop. He plays to his strengths so that everyone else can play to theirs. That kind of humility in a reality TV world built on personalities is rare, and it's why Shag earns respect from fans and co-workers alike. In an industry where egos often clash and pressure can tear teams apart, Shag's presence is a stabilizer. He keeps the culture positive, the people connected, and the machine moving forward. Without him, it's not just a different vibe, it's a different shop entirely. Fans love Shag. From his trucker hats and flannel shirts to his smooth Texas drawl and one-liners, he's the kind of guy who feels like your buddy, even through a screen. Viewers write in just to say how much they enjoy watching him, not because he's building engines, but because he makes the whole experience more fun, more relatable. But there's something many of those same fans miss. Behind the jokes and charisma, Shag is a genius, not with tools, but with people. Being a good TV personality is one thing. Being a successful operational force behind a show's momentum is something else entirely. Shag doesn't just lighten the mood. He handles pressure with grace. He adapts to setbacks on the fly. He instinctively knows when to push and when to back off. These are leadership traits, not sidekick traits. It's why Joe trusts him to represent the brand in negotiations and scouting trips. Because Shag doesn't just understand the value of a car, he understands the value of a story. That's the secret behind his success. He doesn't chase metal, he chases meaning. He looks for builds that say something, cars that have character, history, or heartbreak behind them. Because Shag knows that the audience doesn't just want to see another Mustang restored. They want to feel something. And he delivers that every time. Outside the shop, his creative talents stretch even further. Shag has worked in event planning, brand marketing, and community development. He's organized festivals, helped local charities, and even mentored young creators looking to break into TV and automotive media. He doesn't brag about it. It's just who he is. Always giving, always connecting, always hustling behind the scenes. In a world of overproduced, ego-driven shows, Shag remains refreshingly grounded. That's why fans don't just like him, they trust him. And that trust? It's not an act. It's earned, one deal at a time. Behind the bandanas, shades, and jokes, Shag has a life that most fans never see. Off camera, Jason Arrington is a devoted husband, a proud father, and a passionate Texan deeply rooted in his community. The same charisma he brings to Iron Resurrection is part of how he lives his life, present, upbeat, and real. But what sets Shag apart isn't just what he does on TV. It's what he's built outside of it. Long before Iron Resurrection, Shag was a creative force in the local Austin and San Antonio scenes. He co-founded events, consulted for brands, and developed grassroots campaigns for everything from music venues to custom car shops. That hustle. It didn't start with television. It started with parking lot meetups, vendor booths, and word-of-mouth marketing. He knew how to get people excited, get them talking, and, most importantly, get them to show up. Away from the cameras, Shag is known for his generosity. He supports local fundraisers, promotes small businesses, and lends his platform to community causes. Friends describe him as someone who will stop mid-conversation to help someone load a car, or spend an hour promoting someone else's work just because it deserves attention. That authenticity bleeds into everything he does, including the show. Even his sense of style, vintage tees, denim, caps with personality, isn't curated by a wardrobe team. That's just Shag. He lives the culture he represents. And while some cast members on reality shows live two different lives, one for the audience and one in private, Shag is remarkably consistent. Whether you meet him in a shop, a diner, or a parking lot car meet, he's the same guy. Warm, funny, sharp, and present. He's also creative outside the shop. He's dabbled in music, production, and even content development. Rumors suggest he's helped shape storylines on the show more than fans realize, guiding how builds are framed, how emotional beats are hit. Because Shag doesn't just love cars, he loves storytelling. And that makes all the difference. You can't fake what Shag has. It's not just about knowing cars or how to work a deal. It's about reading a room, reading a moment, and understanding people. The reason Shag succeeds, whether it's in front of a camera or at a backwoods barn, is because he doesn't try to be something he's not. He's himself. Always. And in a world of curated influencers and over-edited TV personas, that level of authenticity is gold. Ask anyone in the custom car scene, and they'll tell you deals fall apart fast when trust isn't there. Shag threads that needle every single time. Why? Because he never treats a deal like just a transaction. To him, it's a conversation. It's a shared story about what a car meant and what it could be again. That's why Shag never comes off as pushy or predatory. He's not trying to win negotiations. He's trying to find common ground. And that's why sellers smile when they hand over the keys. Even fans who've never met him say they'd trust Shag to buy their car. That's not because he's a sweet talker. It's because he's earned that trust. Episode after episode, deal after deal. His success also comes from something harder to define: emotional intelligence. Shag knows how to guide conversations, manage egos, and shift the energy of a situation with just a few words. Whether it's defusing tension in the garage or lifting spirits during a tough build, he's a stabilizing force. And the team knows it. At the end of the day, Shag isn't chasing fame. He's chasing impact. His goal has never been to outshine anyone. It's to amplify everyone. Whether it's a dusty Dodge in a forgotten shed or a nervous client walking into the shop, Shag sees potential. and helps others see it too. That's not just a skill, that's a gift. Iron Resurrection is built on craftsmanship, storytelling, and heart. Joe Martin is the mastermind builder. Amanda is the logistical boss. The crew? Skilled, loyal, and battle-tested. But when you look closely at what keeps it all moving, there's one constant. Shag. He's the heartbeat, the rhythm, the pulse that connects it all. Without him, there's no vibe, no spark, no forward motion. Because he's the one who makes it happen. Shag doesn't need to be in every scene to be essential. He's the one teeing up the projects, scouting the leads, and lining up the backstories that give each build emotional weight. When a customer breaks down in tears seeing their finished car, it's not just because of the metalwork, it's because Shag found that car, saw the story in it, and helped bring it full circle. He's the bridge between the shop and the world beyond it. Inside the team, his presence keeps things grounded. Long days, creative differences, production delays. It's Shag who keeps things light, positive, and focused. He makes the garage feel more like a family than a factory. That's not just good for morale, it's good for business. Because happy teams build better cars, and better cars make better TV. More than anything, Shag represents balance. He brings humor to the heavy moments, clarity to the chaos, and heart to the hustle. And while he may not be laying down welds or tuning engines, his fingerprints are on every build, every episode, every handshake, and every story that sticks with fans long after the credits roll. In the end, Shag is more than a fan favorite. He's the soul of the show. He proves that you don't need a wrench in your hand to be the most important person in the garage. Sometimes, the person making the deals, telling the jokes, and keeping the dream alive is the one holding it all together.